Hey, what's going on everyone? I'm Jakejames Lugo and welcome to the channel. Okay, so let's talk about some Star Wars, but let's not get into the new stuff that we have now. A lot of people kind of hate new Star Wars at this point. Let's go back to a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away when the Star Wars universe was a whole lot more simpler. Let's dive into one of the more interesting games of the Star Wars franchise, The Force Unleashed. Now I know a lot of people kind of love or hate this game, but again, you have to admit, it is one of the more interesting and unique games of the entire franchise. Star Wars The Force Unleashed was released in 2008 for multiple platforms. It's set during the time between Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith and Episode 4 A New Hope. This was a long time ago. Wait! Nope! Not gonna do it. That's way too easy. Nope, nope, nope. What I meant to say that this was during a period before Disney bought everything from LucasArts. Before the dark times. Before the Disney Empire. Ah, dang it! I knew I was gonna do that. I knew I was gonna fall for this. Anyway, if you're a fan of Star Wars, then I'm 100% sure that you probably thought about how crazy the Force can actually be. Just how ridiculous can a Jedi's powers be in combat? That's exactly what The Force Unleashed is all about. Force lightning destroying legions of stormtroopers, crazy lightsaber combat, bringing down a Star Destroyer from space using the Force. This is absolutely insane in hindsight, but back then our imaginations could freely run wild in the Star Wars galaxy. So what's the story here? After the events of Revenge of the Sith, Darth Vader travels to Kashyyyk and attacks a Wookiee outpost as the Empire continues its conquest of the galaxy. While hunting for any remaining Jedi, Vader comes across a young boy named Galen Marlick, who is Force-sensitive and under the care of another surviving Jedi Knight. Instead of killing the boy, Vader raises him within the Empire. He names him Starkiller and trains him in the ways of the Force so that one day both he and Vader can overthrow the Emperor and rule the galaxy. However, when Vader dispatches Starkiller on a mission to complete his training, fate takes a wild turn and the pieces begin to fall in place that will eventually set up the events of Star Wars A New Hope. It's a crazy story that has wild action and tons of fan service that will make you gasp a few times throughout its nearly 10-hour experience. But does everything come together here to make a fun action game set in the Star Wars universe? Well, it's a little complicated.
Your training is nearly complete. It is time to face your first true test.
Your spies have located a Jedi?
Yes, Master Ram Kota. He is attacking a critical Imperial shipyard. Destroy him and bring me his lightsaber.
I shall leave at once, Master.
Alright, real talk, the concept for the story of this game is actually very cool. It's just awesome to see some of the events that happened between Episode 3 and 4, kind of like, the start and the origins of certain aspects of the original trilogy, like the start of the Rebellion, certain characters that we know from Episode 4 and 5. There's a whole bunch of great stuff in here, a ton of fan service that Star Wars fans are really going to appreciate. And the other cool aspect about this is Sam Witwer as Starkiller in this game. I think he does a phenomenal performance, and what really sucks is that because this game is no longer canon, we won't get a live action interpretation of this, man. It's just like boggles my mind just like why this is kind of just being thrown to the side. Thanks a lot for that one, Disney. This is exactly why we can't have nice things in the Star Wars universe, man. It's just, so disappointing. My only major gripe with this entire story of The Force Unleashed is that certain characters and certain plot events don't always come together so well. I feel like things get very rushed towards the very end of the game, where things are starting to wrap up and we kind of just gotta get the conclusion of Starkiller's story. Now, with all that being said, let's dive into the gameplay of The Force Unleashed because, granted this looks and feels like Star Wars, it still has to play very good as a video game. And does it actually do that? Well, there's a couple things we should talk about. Playing The Force Unleashed is a fun experience if you're a Star Wars fan, but if you're not die-hard into the Star Wars universe, then a lot of the game's faults are going to stand out to you. You control Starkiller and fight enemies using your lightsaber and Force powers at will. Powers like Force Push and Force Lightning are very cool and destructive, allowing you to go nuts applying them in clever and downright sadistic ways. Your powers level up with skill points as you defeat enemies and gain experience, allowing you to open up new powers and combos with your lightsaber. Leveling up can take a bit, so you have to destroy everything in your path to get the most experience and become a Jedi Master. The game takes you to different locations during the story, such as Kashyyyk, Cloud City, the jungles of Felucia, and even the nearly completed Death Star. These locations look great and are very faithful to the Star Wars universe, but there's more than a few instances where the environments have bugs and glitches that could get in the way of your progress. When this happens, it definitely gets super annoying. Enemies include all types of baddies, some of which include original creations based on iconic creatures and troopers from the original trilogy. Taking down the Rancor in a more stylish fashion than Luke Skywalker did in Return of the Jedi is very cool, and the same could be said for the AT-ST walkers as well. Now all that being said, my biggest problem are the bugs and glitches with the enemy AI and the overall combat. I sometimes feel like the hit detection and collision of objects in some places can be very messed up. Sometimes my attacks will randomly not hit an enemy, or I'll push an object towards something and it just won't affect them at all. It looks awkward and can affect my experience during certain battles with groups or even bosses. And then there's the inconsistency of the toughness of enemies. Some will act like complete bantha fodder and just stand around, while others act completely misplaced in the wrong difficulty and just overrun you. Now don't get me wrong here, you feel very powerful throughout the entire game, but it definitely feels like there could have been a few adjustments that needed to be done on the back end. This is definitely true for the boss fights you come face to face with. On more than one occasion, I found myself mashing my lightsaber combos only to have the bosses counter through all of my attacks and appear invincible for almost no reason. I don't mind the quick time events that pop up from time to time, they've never really bothered me whatsoever, but it's everything else about these battles that become an issue. The game almost forces you to let them go through certain animations before you even have the chance of fighting them fairly. Even when you feel like you should be able to hit them, you'll be forced back to wait regardless of your timing. Are they very cool to look at? Absolutely. But can they feel somewhat broken at the same time? Most definitely.
You're stronger than I thought, but I can't let you live, boy. I'll be sure to send your ashes back to Vader.
There are some very cool moments and some neat spots here and there within The Force Unleashed, but I feel like all the bugs and glitches and various little kind of like silly moments really bog down the entire experience. The worst culprits of this are the boss fights that you run into at various different points of the game. Again, some of the big boss fights, they look very cool, they have a lot of great set pieces, but some of the different bugs and glitches that prevent you from doing damage, that kind of get you stuck in place, that allow the bosses to do ridiculous amounts of damage to your health, that's the type of stuff that gets very frustrating for someone like me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there that played this game before. One of the best examples of this is Kazdan Paratus, that Jedi that you fight in the junkyard, where he has a very cool design, and again, it's a very vicious fight, but as you're fighting him with your lightsaber or trying to do different things, because the game wants you to use like its gimmicky moments where you have to throw like certain objects using the Force or just, avoid certain attacks of his, it forces you to do that before you could do any sort of damage to him. That's very annoying. Granted, your reactions and just some of your timing might be very good, but the game still wants you to do that, so it'll kind of like force you over to the other side, knock you far away, do a ridiculous amount of damage to your health, causing you to restart the fight in some instances. Like, it just gets very annoying. Another example of this is when you're fighting Darth Vader towards the end of the game. It just gets very frustrating where the game is like, no, you have to stop here, deal with this, and look at this before you can continue the fight in the normal fashion. It's just, to me, I don't like stuff like that. It kind of makes certain sections of the game artificially difficult or just kind of stretches them out for a little bit longer than what they need to be. Now, I have to reiterate that the game does have some really cool set pieces, including the portion when you have to bring down a Star Destroyer from space while fighting off a whole bunch of TIE fighters that are coming at you. This was something that was promoted heavily in the promotional material when the game was coming out, and for how it ended up being inside The Force Unleashed, I thought it was actually really cool. I felt that the developers did the best that they could with this idea. It just is a very cool concept with showing just how powerful the Force can be when it's finally unleashed. You would expect a Jedi that's really connected to the Force to do something crazy like this. Alright, despite all of that, let's get into some of the extra content for The Force Unleashed, because I feel like there's some really cool and interesting things here. Granted, you have to be a real big Star Wars fan to appreciate all of it, and I don't know if everybody out there is really going to be that big into Star Wars to really kind of get why some of this stuff is so special. Now, there is a lot of bonus stuff to explore in Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and all of it is pretty cool. You could collect hidden Jedi and Sith holocrons that unlock concept art in the gallery, which all look great. But in addition to this, these holocrons can also unlock extra costumes that you could select before loading up or starting a new game, which range from classic Star Wars characters to new and original outfits for Starkiller. But by far the best stuff is the bonus DLC missions. The first extra mission that you go on takes you to the Jedi Temple in Coruscant, which happens in the middle of the story before the ending of the game. The other two bonus episodes are really where it's at, because they use the bad ending of the game as a starting point, where Starkiller joins the Empire. One mission takes you to Tatooine and has you fighting an old Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars A New Hope, while the other one brings you to Hoth during the events of The Empire Strikes Back and has you fighting Luke Skywalker. It's super fun to see these classic characters go nuts with their Force powers in the same way that Starkiller does during The Force Unleashed. And while none of it is really canon whatsoever, these side stories are just great pieces of additional content and worth playing through if you're already into the game. However, if you dislike any of the problems that I mentioned before, then you're only going to find more of the same here in these bonus missions. Overall, as a Star Wars fan, I think these are still worth playing through, but I honestly wish more games set in the Star Wars universe took a very similar approach to this downloadable content. They give you something different that still complements the original game, as well as a ton more fan service for you to sink your teeth into.
Quite a mess you made of the place. Your head's worth a lot of credits. So, I'll be bringing it back to Jabba now.
Luckily for us, it's really not that difficult to go around collecting all the different Jedi and Sith holocrons that unlock the different concept art and the bonus outfits that you can use. One of the things I found a little bit disappointing is that the different costumes that you could get based on classic characters or some of the original outfits for Starkiller, they don't really change up your stats or do anything like really different other than just make you cosmetically look different. I just feel like that kind of sucks. It could have been interesting to see like maybe different force powers, different abilities, or something like little changes here and there to mix things up if you decide to use a different outfit. At the same time, I do feel like the extra bonus missions you get as DLC are really freaking awesome. They're really cool, but I would have loved to see more of them like based on classic scenarios from the different movies or some of the extended universe. That would have been really awesome to see interpreted in The Force Unleashed. Imagine a whole section based on The Empire Strikes Back with the duel between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, or Return of the Jedi, or some of the stuff from the prequel trilogy, or even some of the stuff from like, after Return of the Jedi from some of the books. That would have been really awesome to see. I don't know why they didn't really kind of go and run wild with it. Maybe people just didn't dive into the DLC as they probably hoped they would, but still, that could have been really awesome. Again, just the concept of the Force Unleashed and just the Force going crazy with some of our favorite characters from the classic trilogies. Like, that would have been really awesome, man. So after everything that I've said, can I recommend that you guys check out Star Wars The Force Unleashed? I feel like unless you're a really big Star Wars fan, you're not really going to appreciate all the fan service and little nods to the movies and the extended universe that are littered throughout the entire experience. If you're just coming at this as a fan of third-person action games, I feel like a lot more of the game's problems are going to stand out to you much more frequently. A lot of the bugs and glitches are really going to affect your overall experience while playing this game. But if you're just someone that appreciates a Star Wars game and can really just look past a lot of the faults of the game, you're going to enjoy a lot of the stuff that The Force Unleashed has to offer you. I feel like for Star Wars fans, this is going to be a great time, and it's just something that takes you back to a time before Disney bought out Star Wars and before things got a lot more complicated within the Star Wars universe.
What are you doing?
Meditating. A Jedi can sometimes sense visions of the future.
Have you done this before?
Never been a Jedi before.
So anyway, there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts about Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Again, as a Star Wars fan, I can appreciate it. I think it's kind of cool. It's just fun to kind of really run wild with this idea of just how powerful a Jedi can be. But again, I understand it might not be for everybody. But as always, with every game that I review on this channel, that's just my opinion about it. Let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comments section. Tell me, what are some of your favorite Star Wars games? Do you like The Force Unleashed or its sequel that came later on? Tell me about your favorite Star Wars like characters or just stuff about Star Wars as a franchise that you think is pretty cool, or if you hate Star Wars, let me know about that stuff down below in the comments section. Thanks for watching this video, everyone. Go ahead and click the boxes on the side to see more videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to go visit my Patreon page for exclusive gaming content that I know you'll really love. Hope you have a chill day. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.